Okay, let's talk about a silent war. It's a war being waged for your single most valuable resource, your mental real estate. Now, you might not see the enemy, but you absolutely feel the effects of this battle every single day.
Yeah, this probably hits a little too close to home, right? It's that classic feeling of running on a hamster wheel. You're putting in all the effort, you're sweating, you're moving, but at the end of the day, you're in the exact same spot you started.
So, where does that feeling even come from? Well, it starts with a cultural obsession, something we can call the badge of busyness.
And this is the question at the heart of it all, isn't it? Your calendar is packed, your to do list is a mile long, you're constantly in motion, but that feeling of genuine, meaningful progress just stays out of reach. So, what is going on?
See, our society has basically taught us to wear busyness like it's some kind of status symbol. We wake up and immediately dive headfirst into the sea of low value work, checking endless emails, sitting in pointless meetings, making tiny tweaks, all because we've been told that just working harder is the answer. But you know what? It's a trap. And to escape that trap, we first have to diagnose the actual problem. And listen, this isn't just a personal failing. It's not you. It's a systemic virus that has infected our entire way of thinking about work. And here it is. We're calling it the busyness virus. It's this deeply flawed, almost subconscious belief that all tasks are created equal. This is what leads us to pour our best, most focused energy into activities that have almost zero real impact. And that leaves us completely drained for the stuff that actually matters. Now, this whole idea flies in the face of a fundamental principle that just shatters the logic of the busyness virus. You've probably heard of it, the 80-20 rule. It basically states that in almost any system, effort and results are rarely, if ever, equal. And this is what that imbalance looks like in reality for most of us. It's kind of shocking when you see it laid out like this. We spend 80% of our precious energy on tasks that produce a measly 20% of our progress. It's the ultimate illusion, and it's exactly why you feel so exhausted and so frustrated. So let's be crystal clear. Your struggle is not a lack of effort. You're not lazy. What's really happening is you're pushing against the immense, invisible friction created by a poorly designed system for living and working. And this friction, it isn't just inefficient. It has a catastrophic cost. In fact, we are living through the greatest heist in human history. But the thieves aren't stealing your money, they're stealing your attention. They want you locked in this state, continuous partial attention. Every notification, every infinite scroll, every quick check of your inbox, it's a deliberate strike against your cognitive bandwidth, and it's designed to make sure your brain is never fully online. I want you to think of your mind this way. You have the potential, the actual architecture of a high-performance engine, capable of these incredible feats of focus and creation. But in our current world, that incredible engine is being revved up and then shut down every few minutes. Can you just imagine the wear and tear, the wasted fuel, the sheer mind-boggling inefficiency of that process? There's a name for this destructive process. It's called switching friction. You know, we've all been told that multitasking is a skill. It's not. It's a lie. In reality, it's just creating a massive cognitive traffic jam, a catastrophic loss of mental bandwidth every single time you shift your focus. And this is the ultimate, brutal cost. Your mental operating system, your neural OS, is being pushed to the point of total burnout. It is a form of systemic sabotage, and it's all happening while you produce almost nothing of real lasting value. So, how do we fight back? How do we fix this? The solution requires a fundamental shift in our thinking. We have to move away from brute force and towards intelligent design. It's a shift from what we'll call grind to geometry. You have to accept this truth first. The whole hustle culture that glorifies endless grinding is a deception. It's a strategy designed to keep you busy, not effective. The real path to high output isn't through grind, it's through geometry. It's through leverage. I mean, just look at the two mindsets side by side. The grind is linear. It values more hours above all else. It treats all work as equal. And where does that always lead? Burnout, every time. Genealogy, on the other hand, is totally different. It values output. It identifies the few key tasks with the highest leverage, and that is what leads to breakthroughs. So escaping this trap is not about working harder,
The cure is to stop viewing all your tasks as equal and start identifying your systemic advantage, that unique point of leverage where a little bit of your effort produces huge, disproportionate results. Now, once you've identified that advantage, you have to protect it. You absolutely have to build your fortress of focus.
And let's not mince words here. Right now, as things stand, you are losing this war. Your attention is being sliced up, fragmented, and sold to the highest bidder, and it is actively preventing you from ever operating. You ever have one of those days, a frantic 10-hour blur of activity, but when you finally lean back, you think, what did I actually get done today? You felt busy, for sure, but actual progress, it's just not there. Well, if that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. So let's get into this, because there's a powerful, invisible force at play here, and it's draining your potential. We see it everywhere, don't we? People almost brag about how busy they are, how packed their schedule is. We've been conditioned to wear busyness like this badge of honor, equating all that motion with actual achievement. But what if that badge is really a warning label for a much, much deeper problem? Let's just go ahead and give this thing a name. The busyness virus. It's that awful feeling of being stuck on a hamster wheel. You're burning a ton of energy, checking emails, jumping between Slack channels, tweaking minor details, but none of it is really moving the needle on what matters. It's the complete illusion of forward motion. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because this chart shows you the trap in plain sight. In most of our work, effort and results are not one-to-one, not even close. You're likely spending a whopping 80% of your precious energy on what is essentially just noise, low-impact activities that only get you 20% of your results. I mean, that equation is just fundamentally broken. And this right here, this is the big lie that society sells us. We're taught to worship the grind, the idea that if you just put in more hours, more raw effort in a straight line, you'll succeed. But the truth? The truth is that strategic effort, what we're calling geometry, is what actually creates impact. It's not about pushing harder. It's about finding the right leverage point. Okay, so if the busyness virus is the symptom, what's the underlying disease? What is actually happening inside our brains that makes us feel so scattered and unproductive?
All right, here it is. The culprit is something called attention residue. This is the absolute key to understanding this whole mess. When you switch from, say, writing a report to checking a quick email, your mind doesn't just cleanly switch gears. Nope. A piece of your focus, a part of your cognitive bandwidth, gets left behind, still chewing on that report.
And this analogy is just perfect. Every single time you switch tasks, you're leaving behind this cognitive mud, this residue. So when you try to focus on the next thing, you're literally forcing your attention through a clogged pipe. It's slow, it's super inefficient, and the work that comes out the other end is never as clear as it could be. So what's the real-world impact of this? Well, it's devastating. Think of your prefrontal cortex as the CEO of your brain. It handles the big stuff: complex planning, strategic decisions, deep thought. When it's bogged down by attention residue from constantly glancing at your phone or email, it's functioning at maybe 50% capacity. You are trying to run your entire life with your brain's CEO at half power. In systems thinking, there's a term for this. It's called a throughput failure. You're trying to run a really complex, high-definition process, like creative problem-solving, through a system that's just clogged with the ghosts of a dozen unfinished conversations and all that digital static. The system simply can't perform. And this eventually leads to a crisis point that you could call cognitive drowning. You end up spending so much mental energy just trying to switch contexts, trying to clear that clogged pipe again and again, that you have almost no energy left for the actual work. You're literally drowning in the effort of just trying to focus. Now, it's really important to note that for an atypical or neurodivergent mind, this state is even more dangerous. Your high-bandwidth brain naturally sees more connections, which is an absolute superpower. But in this state of cognitive drowning, every tiny ping, every little distraction isn't just an interruption, it's a potential rabbit hole that can pull you down into total systemic overwhelm way faster. So this leads to the question that I think we all ask ourselves on those bad days, the one that really stings. Are you just bad at focusing? Is this a personal failure? A lack of willpower? Let me be perfectly clear. The answer is an emphatic no. You are not failing the system is failing you. You are living and working in an environment that is perfectly, almost brilliantly, engineered to create distraction, to generate attention residue, and to make sure you can never truly focus. Think about it like this. You're asking your brain's hardware to perform at this elite level, to do creative, synthetic work. But its processing power is constantly being leaked away. Every notification, every ping, every "hey, you got a sec," is another tiny hole being punched in your cognitive fuel tank. The state we're all trying to get to, the antidote to all this chaos, is what Cal Newport famously called deep work. This is where the magic happens. It's where you create real value, where breakthroughs occur. But it's literally impossible to get there when your energy is constantly leaking out. I like to think of it as a thermal threshold. To do really great, innovative work, you need to build up a certain amount of focused mental energy. Like a system heating up. But this constant leakage from context switching means you never ever reach that critical temperature. You're always simmering, but you never get to a boil. And that's the ultimate cost. That's the real tragedy of the busyness virus. Your immense potential for a genuine breakthrough, for creating something that truly matters, gets fractured. It just becomes this long, exhausting series of shallow, interrupted, and ultimately unsatisfying efforts. So the real question isn't, how can I focus harder? Or how can I have more discipline? The question is, how can I redesign my environment? You have to stop fighting the friction and start changing the system itself. So the challenge I'll leave you with is this. What is your systemic advantage? How can you build a system that protects your focus instead of destroying it?
All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about focus today, but probably not in the way you're used to. We're going to explore a completely new way of thinking about concentration, not as some fleeting feeling, but as an actual architecture that you get to design.
So let me ask you something. Is focus just this feeling you wait for? You sit down to work and you just hope that inspiration decides to show up? If you're nodding along right now, you are definitely not alone. That's how most of us operate.
But what if that whole approach is, well, completely backwards? This is where the core idea gets really radical. Focus isn't an emotion you wait for. It's a structural barrier. It's something you have to actively and deliberately build around yourself.
Okay, so if we're building a structure, what does that even look like? Well, that brings us right to our first big concept, the fortress of focus. And I love this metaphor because it's not about just managing a few distractions. No, this is about building actual walls.
This fortress is a dedicated mental space. Think of it as the one place where your neural OS, your brain's very own operating system, can finally consolidate all of its power. It's an environment that's specifically designed for your mind to work at its absolute peak. So building the fortress, that's step one. But once you're inside those walls, how do you actually operate? What do you do? That brings us to the practical application here, the deep work protocol.
So what exactly is deep work? Well, it's a very specific protocol for doing the hard stuff. It's about performing cognitively demanding tasks in a state of pure, 100% distraction-free concentration. And the goal is to push your abilities right to their limit because that's where all the real growth happens. And get this, there is a real biological payoff here. When you're in a state of deep work, you're doing so much more than just finishing a task. You are physically changing your brain. You're myelinating the neural circuits for your most important skills, basically paving superhighways in your head to make them faster and way more efficient.
Now, it's really important to get this. This isn't just some clever productivity trick. It's a core strategic principle. It all comes down to the sheer power of concentration. In fact, in the field of systems thinking, this strategy has an actual name, resource concentration. The whole idea is applying your full undivided energy to a very small number of things that give you the biggest possible return.
This chart really visualizes the problem perfectly. For most people, our energy is just fractured. We spend something like 80% of it on shallow, low-impact work. The busy work. Resource concentration is about completely flipping that script and dedicating 100% of your focus to that critical 20% of high-leverage tasks.
And the result of doing this, what's the payoff for this intense focus? A potential 10x multiplier on your output. Seriously, that's not 10%, that's 10 times better. By concentrating your cognitive resources, you can produce work that is just in a different league than someone stuck in a state of constant distraction.
So here's the crucial takeaway. In our modern world, which is just filled with shallow, distracted work, the ability to go deep is a genuine superpower. In fact, some call it the new IQ.
It's the one skill that allows you to produce value that is both incredibly rare and extremely hard for other people to replicate. Adopting this protocol doesn't just change how you work, it actually changes who you are. And that brings us to the final stage of this transformation, becoming the architect. This really presents two different paths, doesn't it? On one side, you have the reactionary node. This person lives in their inbox, reacts to every notification, and produces shallow, forgettable work. But on the other side, you have the original architect. They create from an internal vision, they manage their neural environment, and they produce rare, valuable work.
And that leads us to maybe the most important shift of all. Just stop managing your time. It's a losing game. Start managing your neural environment. Be ruthless about what you let in, and fiercely protect the space you need to actually think.
As the architect, your goal is pretty clear. You need to insulate your mental system from all that external noise. You have to give the CEO of your mind the quiet space it needs to innovate, to weave those golden threads. And when that happens, something amazing occurs. The friction of actually getting things done just vanishes, and your mind can dive deeper than the noise can ever reach.
So, we'll end with this. Your mind has an architecture. It's being built every single day, whether you realize it or not. It's either being built by you, or it's being built by the world around you. So the only real question left to ask is, who's holding the blueprint?
Okay, so today we're going to build a fortress, but not with bricks and mortar. No, this one is for your mind. We are diving deep into a protocol that is designed specifically to help you reclaim your focus in a world that is, let's face it, engineered to steal it. This is all about taking back control.
So I've got a really important question for you right off the bat. Just think about your own day, your own habits. Are you a victim of the algorithm, just constantly reacting to whatever notification or feed gets thrown at you? Or are you the architect of your focus, deliberately, intentionally choosing where your attention goes? Because as we're about to see, that single choice changes everything. All right, first things first. Before we can even think about building a solution, we have to diagnose the problem. And it really comes down to this fundamental choice in how we operate every single day. Are you a node or are you an architect? So on one side, you've got the reactionary node. This has kind of become the default mode for most of us, right? It's a life of shallow work, just bouncing from one ping to the next, one notification to the next. But then, on the other side, you have the original architect. This is someone who engages in deep work, someone who creates rare and valuable things, precisely because they've decided to build, not just to react. So if being a reactive node is the problem, what's the solution? Well, it's the vision. It's about building this mental sanctuary, what we're going to call the fortress of focus. And the absolute foundation of this fortress is something called deep work. Now let's be super clear about what this means. This isn't just, trying to focus. No, it's a protocol. It means performing cognitively demanding tasks in a state of pure 100% distraction-free concentration that actually pushes your capabilities to their absolute limit. And this right here is why this matters so much. In an economy that is just flooded with shallow, easy-to-replicate tasks, the ability to go deep, that's the new IQ. It is such a rare skill, and because it's rare, it is incredibly valuable. It's a fundamental advantage in pretty much anything you do. Now, here's the crucial mindset shift you have to make. Focus is not some fleeting feeling you just wait for to show up, like inspiration. No. Focus is a structural barrier. It is something you actively, deliberately build around your mind to keep the constant noise out. It's an act of engineering, not emotion. So what's actually happening inside this fortress? Well, your mind, your neural OS, it gets to consolidate its power. You're not just getting stuff done, you are literally strengthening the neural circuits for your most important skills. You're myelinating them. By concentrating all of your mental resources on one single thing, you can get results that are just exponentially better. This is how you weave those golden threads of innovation. Okay, so we get why this is so important, but how do you actually do it? This is the blueprint. These are the practical, step-by-step instructions for building your own fortress. The whole protocol really boils down to 3 core steps. It's that simple. First, you have to execute environmental isolation. Second, you define your monastic windows. And third, you master your shutdown rituals. Let's break down each one. First up, isolation. And this is non-negotiable. It means ruthlessly clearing out your environment, both your physical space and your digital one.
Close the 1,000 tabs, silence the notifications, and yeah, this is the big one. Put your phone in another room. You have to remember, distance is the only real defense against that deep-seated instinct to just check it. Okay, step 2 is about defining your monastic windows. And here's the magic number you need to remember. 90 minutes. That's the ideal length for a deep work session. Think of this as your blackout time, a sacred, totally unreachable window for your mind to do its most critical work, completely free of interruptions.
And finally, step 3, the shutdown ritual. Look, you can't just slam the laptop shut and call it a day. That doesn't work. You need to end your session cleanly. You do a quick system sync. Just write down exactly where you left off, what the next steps are. This gives your brain a sense of closure, so you're not carrying all that stress from the task into your valuable recovery time.
And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the commission. This is so much more than a set of tips. This is a call to action. Consider this your official invitation to become the architect of your own mind.
You have to remember this. You possess an incredibly high-bandwidth mind. It is capable of absolutely extraordinary things. But, and this is a big but, only if you create the right conditions for it to work. And what does that mean? It means you have to protect the pipe. Think about it. If your high-bandwidth connection is constantly clogged with low-value static and noise, you never, ever reach your full capacity. Protecting your focus is protecting your potential. They are the same thing. You know, when it comes down to it, it's all about this one simple but incredibly powerful shift in behavior. Stop checking, start creating. You have to move from that passive, reactive state into an active, generative one. So, it all comes down to this. For you, right now. Knowing the real cost of distraction and knowing the immense power of focus, are you ready? Are you ready to delete the noise and truly begin the deep work? If that's a yes, if you're ready, here is your very first step. Just comment Fortress below and we'll send you our Deep Work Environment Checklist. It's designed to help you start building your own fortress starting today. Now go build.